My next guest on Morning Focus is Mel Mercier, the Tony-nominated multi-award-winning composer, sound designer and director of the Irish Gamelan Orchestra, MÓNCKK, the new music ensemble, and PULSUS, Ireland's first traditional percussion ensemble. His new album, First Conviction, will be released tomorrow and features his powerful soundtrack for a podcast and TV documentary of the same name, performed by the RTÉ Concert Orchestra, alongside an international lineup of outstanding musicians. Mel, thanks for having a chat.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be on, and especially delighted to be on Clare FM, because County Clare is the birthplace of my mother, Nuala, in Ennis, and it is also where I think the vast majority of my cousins live. So I'm delighted to be talking to you on Clare FM.
Great. Well, that's guaranteed us an increased listenership this morning then if half the Mercier family are listening, Mel. So thanks for that.
They're the McKeon, so they're on my mother's side, the McKeon family. And there's plenty of them. A great musical family.
Well, that's no shock coming from this county. Congratulations on the release of First Conviction tomorrow, which, as I say, began life as a soundtrack. Can you talk a bit about the story, how it resonated with you musically from the outset?
Yeah, I can, of course. Liam O'Brien and Tim Desmond of RTÉ Doc on One and RTÉ Investigates approached me to ask if I would be interested in writing the score excuse me, for a new series, a 6-part radio series and a TV documentary about an African couple living in Ireland, and their excuse me, and their story really. At the time, they hadn't actually made the documentary, so they gave me just the kind of bones of this story, and actually that suited me, because when I'm writing music for theatre piece or for a documentary or for film, actually initially I don't like to have too much detail, because I find the detail maybe gets in the way a little. So they spoke to me about the kind of emotional content of the story, the tensions in it, the flow, the rhythm of it, and of course the fact that there was an African couple in an Irish living in Ireland. It immediately made me want to include echoes or resonances of African music, which is when I reached out to the wonderful guitarist Niwel Tumbu, and Irish music.
And the album brings together a lot of different elements, orchestral strings, African guitar, jazz piano, traditional flute, voice and electronics. How did that fusion evolve, and what drew you to these particular musical voices?
Yeah, I've been working collaboratively for a long time with musicians. I love those musical encounters with musicians, especially musicians who are good improvisers. So Paul O'Donnell, for example, the jazz pianist, or Carl Nesbitt, who's a traditional musician but is also a great improviser on a range of instruments. And I like bringing those together. Niwel is a master African guitarist, but also plays in many styles, and he's a master improviser. So I bring them into the studio, I work with them, I create some tracks with them, and then I start to, it's like I create a palette of sounds. And then I add some percussion to give them some momentum and some drive. The great attraction for me, one of the great attractions of doing the score for the documentary, was that there was an opportunity to work with the RTÉ Concert Orchestra with the string section. So I asked a great string arranger, Anya Delaney here in Cork, to do some string arrangements based on the tracks that I had made, and we had a fantastic session in the RTÉ studios. And the strings then, in amongst the driving percussion, the kind of colour that the guitar brings, that in particular that kind of African style, and of course the brightness of the piano, the Irishness to some extent, and also the loneliness, for example, in Carl Nesbitt's flute playing. they all complement each other. It's really then I sit down in the studio and I weave them together to create these kind of tapestries.
Yeah, and indeed we're going to play Saeed in just a moment, which has wonderful guitar from Newell, and as a Fela Kuti fan, it has that fantastic Afrobeat rhythmic guitar, so looking forward to playing that. Mel, what do you hope listeners take away when they hear First Conviction as an album, away from the images and the spoken word of the documentary? I'm sure they'll enjoy it in tandem with that, but to be able to appreciate it on its own merits separately. Yeah,
that's a very good question. I think I'm always interested, if I make a theatre piece or music for theatre or again music for documentary, that the music can stand on its own, and so that requires a certain process then of reinvention of the music, of the soundtrack. The RTÉ folks did all the editing into the documentary of the music. Then I take the music away and I remix it for listening, so that it stands on its own as music. And so I'm pretty sure that those who listened to the documentary series will, of course, be brought back to the story when they listen to the album. But there's a whole other audience that won't have heard the documentary. And I'm hoping that they'll enjoy this combination. It's quite an unusual combination, I think, of a string orchestra with the African guitar and the Irish flute and the jazz piano and a lot of percussion. And I make a lot of electronics and drones from found sounds and things. So I think it's a particular kind of palette of sounds. It has. I like to think that it has good momentum. My own, I began as a bodhrán and bones player. I'm still a bodhrán and bones player, and so that feel for groove and for rhythm is still very, very much a driving force in me. And I'm hoping that will also come through on the tracks on the album. And then for me, when I listen to it now. I love it when the strings come in. I just love that lushness of them, the expansiveness of them. So they're the kind of things that I'm hoping that listeners will enjoy in it.
Well, look, as you mentioned a moment ago, an unusual combination, but I haven't listened to it. I can tell you it works really, really well. We're going to get a sample of it now with Saeed from First Conviction, which is released tomorrow. Mel, lovely having a chat with you, and congratulations on coming up with such a lovely potion of different musical elements and making it work. And thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks a million, Alan. Thank you very, very much.
No bother at all. That's Mel Mercier there. And here is from First Conviction, Saeed.